Paging Commissioner Iverson, come to the front, please. Paging Commissioner Iverson to the front. To the principal's office.
Many times, many times. Welcome everybody to the Board of Commissioners meeting for Washington County on this, the February 20th, 2024. We appreciate you being here. Our invocation is by Derek D. Tony Hill of the Shepherd of the Hills United Methodist Church. Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to be with you and support you in your work as well. So I invite us to pray. Gracious Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the rain which nourishes our land and which provides for all that we need. We thank you for opportunities we have to live and play and recreate, as well as work in a beautiful place like St. George in Washington County. And we are grateful for public servants who seek to listen and respond and to be a part of making this an even better place to live and to be. Bless them, bless all of us who are a part of this community. May your Spirit remind us of the gift of love that you've placed within each of us in various ways, and the opportunities we have to share that love in caring for our neighbors as well as for our families. Bless and keep us, and may you guide and direct the decisions that are made today and throughout this year. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Reverend, I know you're part of the Interfaith Council. Thank you for their united efforts in making this area just what you said, an area of understanding and love. Thank you. Well, we love to pay homage to our country, and with the Pledge of Allegiance, we do so by Lieutenant Colonel David Houston. We all know very well, United States Marine Corps retired, but you're not retired in all that you're doing in our community. So please come and offer your pledge.
Please stand. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Our sincere thanks.
Thank you, Colonel.
The consent agenda is next. It is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt our consent agenda consisting of the following items. Item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for February 7th, 2024 through February 20th, 2024. B, consideration of commission meeting minutes of February 6th, 2024. C, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments for personal property. E, consideration of renewal of fleet management service agreement. F, acknowledgement of adoption of ordinance number 2024-1248-0, published on Sunday, January 21st, 2024. And the final item is item G, acknowledgement of adoption ordinance number 2024-1249-0, published on Sunday, February 11th, 2024. And Mr. Chairman, that's my motion.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second, hearing no division. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Our regular items are as follows. There'll be first a presentation, a video that we put together showing a 2023 year in review. Adam is going to introduce it, but I can just say that two people I spoke with during our public comment period said that we as commissioners do nothing. Well, we do nothing, I guess, according to what they want, but here's an idea of what we do.
So just for those who weren't here last week or last commission meeting, some people, I said the president does the State of the Union, the governor does the State of the State, and The city, the mayor often does a state of the city, but those are all one elected official. We have three of us, so we didn't do a state of the county by going one sentence apiece and having a really weird, awkward, clunky speech. So we also decided to use modern technology and do a video that we could go around and show what's going on in Washington County, what we've been working on, what we hope to accomplish, and so that's what these videos are. And we decided that one of the ways we could show them and let the media get a chance to see them as well is to show just one clip for the next several commission meetings in commission meetings. So this is the second episode, so to speak.
None of us went to makeup or had training, but Adam does look good.
I do. In 2023, the Washington County Commissioners boldly and proudly declared that Washington County is America's county. Now, there are times when you'll see government, local, state, federal government, make proclamations and use flowery things, and it kind of seems like it sounds nice, but doesn't really mean a lot. I can tell you that is not true here. We firmly believe that Washington County has an important role to play both in the state and at the federal level, to be a shining example of how local government should be run, and to be a bastion and a fortress of where your individual liberties, where the Constitution is still revered and upheld. That has great significance for our citizens. We want to make sure that those who are coming here, we have grown a lot over the last 20 years, but that those that are coming here know that this is what we believe. This is what this county stands for. And if you want to come and benefit from it and add to it, we want your voice here. We want you to come here. We want you to be a part of America's county, where we hold the truths of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, our state constitution, to be free, and where we will continue to uphold them here in Washington County and be a shining example to the rest of the country of how government should be run.
As a part of declaring Washington County America's county, one of the first steps we took was to write a proclamation, because in the preamble of our Constitution, we find the words, "in order to form a more perfect union." As we have grown as a county, as many people have moved in, we wanted to make sure that we were speaking the same language and understanding the values that bring us together. So in this proclamation that we wrote together, it came together through the authorship of all three of us county commissioners with the help of our county attorney's office to really highlight the individual freedoms that we all respect and enjoy, the founding documents and our appreciation for them. This proclamation is something that we feel that represents the values of all of our citizens, no matter where you've come from or how long you've lived in our area. We were hopeful and continue to be hopeful that this proclamation will be a unifying document as we go together as America's county here in Washington County.
I'd like to add some historical perspective of how everyone came to Washington County. Let's face it, during the westward expansion of the 1800s, they weren't thinking of Southwest Utah as that garden spot. But when the pioneers, over 300 families, were called to this area to settle it, they had to fight off a lot of the challenges that a natural and an unforgiving environment would often give. They endured, and they were dedicated to maintain this place as a new settlement, a place where the freedoms, the patriotism, all of the things that they embraced as foundations of the liberty that they sought in a country that professed liberty. They provided the backbone for what we experience here today. Many of us, although unknowingly, celebrate that Dixie spirit, which they became known as in Utah's Dixie. It's important that we recognize that as America's county, we continue to fight on for that legacy.
So as America's county, we want the public to know, those that live here and visitors that come and those who might be moving here, that this is a place where we will always defend our God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That we will uphold the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Utah Constitution. That we will fight for you, your right to practice your religion, to uphold the Second Amendment, and to keep and bear arms to defend your family and against government intrusion, your freedom of speech, against government overreach, and all of the other things that we can do to fight on your behalf as the last line of defense against government overreach it might infringe on those rights. We invite you to embrace America's county, to learn more about it. Read the Constitution, read the Declaration of Independence, read the writings of our founding fathers. We do as county commissioners constantly, so that we can know how we can best uphold those ideals and make this a place where freedom thrives and where our citizens know that their government has their back. And for all of those reasons, that's why we declared Washington County to be America's county, to be a shining example of where the government closest to the people governs best. The way the founding fathers of this state and for our nation envisioned that government would work, and that we can be a shining example to all of Utah and America of how local government should be run.
Thank you, Sarah, for running that. I really appreciate my fellow commissioners. Just today, somebody came up to me and said, wow, the commissioners in the county I'm from, they don't get along about anything. Well, it's lovely that the three of us can work and discuss and, you know, administratively, operationally talk about things, and of course this declaration. But my thanks to my fellow commissioners for that, and obviously they're better cinematography than myself. So having said that, we'll move on with our next item. By the way, the people that said we do nothing, they left, so they didn't get to see that. We'll have to package it up, Christmas present. Presentation from the DWR PILT payment that we receive. Kevin Bunnell. Thanks, Kevin, for being here.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll bring the PILT payment up to you here in just a minute. I have to say, I appreciate the video, and a perfect Southern Utah weekend this weekend where everybody from the Wasatch Front came down and spent their money and then went home, and then it started raining again, which we need all of those things. So appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a check for you for $174.86, which, as Commissioner Snow said, you promised not to spend it in one place, and that'll be a challenge to not spend it all in one place. But we do appreciate the partnership that we have with Washington County. A couple of updates and a request. Rick Friedel, who's been running my staff down here for the last 32 years, retired last Thursday. And so we will be hiring a replacement, a new project leader for the Washington County field office. And when we get that position filled, I'd like the opportunity to bring that person in and introduce them in whatever format you guys would like, if we can, and I'll coordinate with you, Commissioner Snow, to do that. Other than that, we continue to work with the county on desert tortoises and the Washington County Water Conservancy District on Virgin River fish issues, and pretty remarkable what the partnerships have been able to accomplish in light of all of the growth that you mentioned, Commissioner Gilquist,
It's been Olmsted. I've read all.
I put your first
them.
and last names together there. Sorry. Anyway, we appreciate that partnership and appreciate the openness. Commissioner Snow and I have developed a very open dialogue, and I hope that continues. And I think we can talk about just about anything, and that's the way we get things done, and we can get over little bumps in the road. But with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them. If not, I'll deliver the PILT payment, and then I've got to head up to the Virgin's Town Council meeting. So
I would just like the public to hear not $100,000, just $100.
just $174.86.
I just want to make sure that the public all knew that.
All that means is
Ryan, you can balance the budget now.
we
You got
don't-
174 more dollars.
and all that indicates is we don't own a lot of property in Washington County. I delivered a check to Millard County earlier today for $9,000, which makes a difference in a county
Yes.
budget that size. So
That
What
is their
about,
budget.
you guys have, no, that's SITLA, so this is only for the.
this is just Division of
this is the
Wildlife
SITLA
property.
land,
So.
yeah. So,
Well, very good.
Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate our partnership. Thank you, and thanks for including Adam in the selection process of Rick's predecessor. I'm kidding. Well, Adam.
We'd love
can
to,
talk
actually,
about
yeah.
that.
Adam,
We would.
Be great.
Thank
I'd
you.
volunteer Adam right now.
Thank you.
He's got some spare time, so.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Drive safe.
You know, we haven't made this comment, Commissioner Holmquist, just how proud we are of our young Commissioner Adam Snow. He's really coming along and becoming a fantastic county commissioner. And,
Steve, I'm sitting right here. Right? There's just,
Okay, well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, it's grown up well. Next, our emergency services report, Washington County Sheriff's Office. Perfect day, rainy day. Maybe somebody out there doing something in this crazy weekend you just went through. Hopefully our report's not too long, or...
I can shorten it if
Oh,
you
well,
would like.
what I mean is it's not a lot of cases you were on.
Actually, we started the year quite slow, and I used that word, and then this weekend came.
Okay.
So it changed things. We have 9 calls on this report, 236 man-hours. That brings us to 11 search and rescues in the year so far, which is a slow beginning compared to previous years, but I think we're going to make it up.
Okay.
On the 21st of January, we had a missing person off Laverkin Bridge. Deputies got there and they did locate him, but unfortunately he did not survive the fall. So search and rescue was brought in once the investigation was done to bring him back out of where he was at. They had to cross the river a couple times, so they used search and rescue to get him out. On the 22nd, we had a stranded motorist on Cottonwood, 81-year-old female, got herself stuck in the mud up there, and they went in and helped her back out. It was very quick,
was she by herself?
by herself. And
Has she driven Cottonwood before?
she had driven it and got herself stuck in the mud.
No, is she familiar with the road prior to that?
What's that?
Was this her first time across there?
I don't know. I know that hopefully it'll be her last time across there until it dries.
Yeah.
On the 23rd of January, we had a missing person in Leeds. 85-year-old female had gone missing from her home. We called out search and rescue, searched for several hours, and while we were regrouping to figure out where to go next, we heard a scream from across the road. And the neighbors across the road had parked their car in the garage. The husband had thrown a cover over it and never noticed that she was sitting in the passenger seat. So she'd been in there for multiple hours in the passenger seat of that car with the cover over the top. Wife came out, pulled the cover off, opened the door, and screamed. That's where we heard the scream from. So she was located. She was turned over to medical due to her conditions, so they could transport her and check her out. On the 11th of February, we had an overdue motorist in Pine Valley. Father and an 8-year-old son went off-roading up there, and they were way overdue. Deputy went up in the area, was searching. I called out a few SAR people to go help him, and while they were en route, the deputy found him up Grass Valley. They chose to just take a ride out and go get the vehicle later, which is probably the best thing to do in those conditions. On the 17th, we had a motorcycle accident on Tocqueville Twist. This was the beginning of our weekend, by the way. This was Saturday. 53-year-old male crashed his motorcycle. He was showing that he potentially had some head trauma. They did call Life Flight. The search and rescue deputies and SAR got medical in there, got him stabilized, threw him on Life Flight, and they flew him in. On the 18th, we had an injured hiker in Snow Canyon. 43-year-old male who fell while hiking, also smacked his head, was showing signs that he potentially had a more serious injury. He was carried out of the canyon, put on an ambulance, and sent to the hospital. I think he turned out to be okay. On the 18th, on the 18th, we had another injured hiker on Chuckawalla. It was a 22-year-old male who was hiking around Turtle Wall and stepped wrong, and that ended his hiking for a while. He appeared to have a fractured ankle. So St. George Fire and SAR went in and got him and brought him out. On the 19th, we had another fall at Laverkin Bridge. Unfortunately, that gentleman did not survive that either. Search and rescue was brought in to help extract that subject from the canyon there.
What was the age of that victim?
26-year-old male. And I think the first one was 22. Yeah. And that was 2 weeks apart. And then again, yesterday, a lost UTV rider, a bunch of riders up in Long Valley area. They did not know where they were at, giving us multiple different roads that aren't near there. Got several GPS coordinates, but search and rescue was called out and they did locate them. It was 2 UTVs with 4, I don't want to use the word elderly people because I'm one of them, but they were older people and they've been driving around for hours trying to find their way off the mountain, could not. So SAR just got a hold of them, let them right off the mountain and then took them back to their camp and they were done. Any questions on any of this?
As always, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Pass along our great appreciation on behalf of the citizens of Washington County for your volunteers and all their help and all their skills and the training that they go through and their families letting them go. And thank you.
You betcha.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is consideration of purchase request. Ray.
Okay, the first one I have here is for our elections department. This is for a new DS950 central tabulator. This isn't an upgraded version from what we already have. For now, it's going to be an addition to our fleet per se, but to help us get us through the presidential year. And then we'll eventually phase out the old ones we currently have. This machine is $133,925. The next item on this requisition is a DS300. These are upgrades to our DS200s, which is the voting location machines. We are purchasing 8 of these for $7,255 each, and we are able to trade in 8 of the old ones for $625 each. And then the cost also includes any equipment installation, training, hardware, licenses, and accessories such as ink or whatever, for a total of $199,035. The next one is for the Commission's office. This is for 2 2023 Ford F-150s for $55,551 each, trading in 2 2022 Ford F-150s for $47,000 each, and with some additional fees that are required, this is a cost of $18,000. The next one is for the assessor's office. This is for 1 2023 Ford F-150 for $55,551, trading in 1 2022 Ford F-150 for $47,000. With a few little additional fees, this brings the total to $9,000. The next one is for the roads department. This is the usual equipment fuel. This will be $29,824.65. And just in case anybody cares, the vendor did not charge us for the winterization, but as required by law, we had to pay the taxes and fees associated with that. The next two go together. This first one here, this is for a 2025 Western Star semi-truck. It's going to take about a year to build, and by the time it gets done, it will be classified as a 2025. That's where that comes from. This is basically the chassis, engine, transmission, cab for a new snow plow and various use machinery. So this cost for this munch is $174,976. And then the next requisition is for the dump bed that's going to go on it, the snow plow, the sand and salt spreader, and the hydraulic system to hook all of that up together. And this cost will be $124,450, and that includes all the installation and any operational controls. The next one is for the fair. This is for the artist fee for Tracy Bird. This is our upfront cost only, other expenses to follow based on the finished contract and the artist writer. This is $40,000. And then the next one is the artist fee for Little Texas, and same thing, this is the upfront cost only. And that's $25,000. And the last one is for the sheriff's office. This is for a surveillance camera package. This will be assigned to the drug task force. This is for $15,959. Unless there's any questions, that is all I have.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchase request as presented by Ray.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman. Aye.
Aye. We should note that these are budgeted items that surpass a certain amount, and that's why they have to be discussed in a public meeting. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank
Ray.
you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we amend our agenda and at this time take up items 13, 14, and 15. I know that from a previous conversation, we have somebody here that has a previous commitment in one of these items, and I'm not sure we'll get there otherwise, so.
Many people are here for these fire boards. Is there a second?
I will second that amended agenda.
So the motion is to move items 13, 14, and 15 on the regular agenda into positions 5, 6, and 7. If we would notice that up in our minutes, that would be appreciated. Item 13, which is now item 5. Consideration of resolution number R 2024-3264, resolution appointing board members to the Dameron Valley Fire Special Service District Administrative Control Board. Ryan Anderson, Alan Burns, Pat Johnson, whose appointments would expire 12/31/2027, and David Fulford, Kurt Shelley, whose appointments would expire 12/31/2025. Discussion?
I think Devin did the interviews.
Yeah, I'll just note, Commissioners, Jason Whipple and I sat down with each of the candidates for this district and had good conversations with each of them, and this was the recommendation of Jason Whipple, who is the County Emergency Manager. These were the recommendations, and those were presented to you today.
Okay, well, they're here. We recognize several of you and also appreciate your attendance. Couldn't do this without you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank anybody who's willing to sign up for a fire district board. They should get a medal of honor of some sort, you know. They do great work and tremendous hours. I know a couple of them have already been on the board for multiple years now and have given great service to their community. And then the others that were willing to sign up. And so, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just for the public's notices or information, all 5 members of the Dameron Valley Board are currently up. And so the reason for the 2 different expiration dates of their terms is so that they're not all up again
Yeah.
at one time. So there's some continuity to the board. And so you get 3 changing out, and then 2 years later 2, and then 3, and then 2. So it alternates, much like us.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, is there a motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to propose or make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2024-3264. And as you've already mentioned, appointing these members to the Dameron Valley Fire Special Service District Administrative Board. Ryan Anderson, Alan Burns, and Pat Johnson, with their terms expiring on December 31st, 2027. And David Fulford and Kurt Shelley, and their term would be expiring on December 31st, 2025.
And I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you again. All right. Item 14, consideration of resolution number R20, which is now item 6. R 2024-3265, resolution appointing board members to the Northwestern Special Service District Administrative Control Board. Rosemary D. Amato and Mike Johnson, whose terms would expire 12/31/2027.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Same story here. Jason Whipple and I sat down and interviewed candidates for the Northwest Special Service District. And this was our recommendation after spending time with them, that you appoint Rosemary D'Amato and then Mike Johnson.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve approve Resolution R 2024-3265, appointing board members to the Northwest Special Service District Administrative Control Board, namely Rosemary D'Amato and Mike Johnson, with their terms ending on December 31st, 2027.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 7, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3266, resolution appointing board members to the Pine Valley Special Service District Administrative Control Board, Alan Cannon, Emily Nelson, and Steve Shakespeare, whose terms would expire 12/31/2027.
I'm going to guess that this is the same story, Devin?
Same story, all great candidates. These were the recommended board members from us.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3266, appointing Alan Cannon, Emily Nelson, and Steve Shakespeare with terms ending on December 31st, 2027 to the Pine Valley Special Service District Administrative Control Board.
I'll second that motion and thank all of these people for being so willing to serve.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Well, thank you for coming and attending and good work. We know you've already made a big difference in the areas where you serve, and having had a fire come within a half a mile in Bryan Head area to my own cabin, I appreciate those who went in and made sure that it didn't burn down. So thank you. All right, back to our agenda pagination, which now begins item 8, which is consideration of ordinance number 2024-1250-0, an ordinance amending the general plan by adopting the Washington County Transportation Master Plan as an element of the general plan. Todd.
Thank you, Commissioners. This has been an ongoing project for about a year or so. Back in 2011 is the last time we updated our master transportation plan, so it was well overdue. And we were able to acquire some funding from UDOT, approximately $80,000 to help fund ours. And then we had a match that we had pledged for $25,000. We went to the Dixie Metropolitan Planning Organization, and they agreed to match that, and then also agreed to add another $25,000 to beef up the active transportation element of that master plan. So I'll give you the short version of it. Was done by Avenue Consultants. We hired an outside consultant to help us with this. They were excellent. They spent a lot of time with public outreach. They spent a lot of time sending out flyers and questionnaires, having public meetings, and brought in a bunch of different organizations. So I'll give you kind of the executive summary. It was a multi-agency effort. Some of the agencies that we coordinated with were the municipalities, of course, 5 County Association of Government, UDOT was a big partner, Bureau of Land Management, and we used the stakeholders group to come up with a set of goals and vision statement. And our vision statement was planned for a safe, efficient, and connected transportation network for all users. Fairly simple and straightforward. The 5 goals were to increase mobility within the transportation network, improve safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers, work together across jurisdictions, enhance multimodal connections, and develop a plan for a safe and maintainable network. And with that, the most important part from my standpoint was coming up with projects. I'm an engineer at heart, and so they came up with projects, cost estimates for a 10-year, a 20-year, and a 30-year time horizon. The cost estimates they came up with far and exceed anything that are in our budgets, but if money falls from the trees, we at least know where to spend it now. Came up with 37 different roadway improvement projects, some of them brand new roads, some of them just improvements to our existing roads. Came up with a total of 30 active transportation that would include pedestrian and bicycle, those kind of improvements throughout the county.
Did their study set priorities, or is that up to us then to set?
That's up to
priorities?
us, yeah.
Yeah.
We
They didn't
identified
suggest
them.
priorities.
They have a number by them,
Okay.
but that number is just an identifying number. They did not attempt to set priorities. That was a little beyond the scope
Yeah.
of this one. And some of their background information that they've given us, they've showed how it tied into the model that the Dixie MPO has put together, and to kind of show us a little bit better. So we've got actually more background information than what is in this document. We paid for it by the pound, so we had to keep some of that out of the document. I went over the existing conditions and here's the items that went over. Went over these different sections, the existing conditions, which we needed to know where we're at. It went over community and stakeholder input through public involvement, went through active transportation improvements, then roadway improvements, right-of-way acquisition, which is very important to us because we don't own all of our right-of-ways that we use, and funding guidance. And that's where they came up with ways that we may be able to fund a lot of these projects. So I'm not going to go over line by line unless you'd like me to, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
I just think it's an important document for us to have in our general plan, and it's been something that we've kind of talked among ourselves about the importance of it, and so to have it, that'll be a good place to start, I think, for us to kind of start setting our own priorities. So thank you,
Thank you.
Todd, for,
And I think most people,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
no,
I think most people understand that we're also shifting our gears, which we have in the area for 25 plus years, to active transportation as well. And that the transportation plan includes trails or widening, and in some places even equestrian sort of accommodations, and that it's not just pavement, it's often access and ways to get about in many different ways, so.
Right.
The plan was emailed to us, since it's rather large to print here. I made the mistake of opening it on my phone and then sat on my bed for quite a while on Saturday reading the plan, or Friday, reading the plan. It was it's a page turner, but actually a lot of really good information. And
Hope you have unlimited data on your plan, or it may be costly to
I
download.
was at home, luckily. It was Friday evening, because that's what I do for exciting times on a Friday night.
it's harder to read on your phone as you're like trying
Well, let's
to
just say that item number
enlarge and shrink.
6 was not open on my phone. That was on the computer, because that was, the next one that we're about to deal with was,
It has a lot of pretty heavy graphics too, and so that it does take a lot. So we actually got a reduced version that it will make it a little more handy for, that people can download. They'll have the choice on our website. to
Well, thank you
download
for
either
it.
one.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance number 2024-1250-0, an ordinance amending the general plan by adopting the Washington County Transportation Master Plan as an element of the general plan.
And I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Todd, for your work. Item 9, consideration of ordinance number 2024-1251-0, an ordinance amending the Washington County Code, various Title 10 zoning regulations and Title 11 subdivision regulations to comply with new state law regarding single-family, two-family, and townhouse development, and miscellaneous changes to Titles 10, 11 amendments, February 2024. Victoria.
Hello. I haven't been up at this podium yet, so I'm happy to be here.
Welcome.
Since I did most of the heavy lifting on drafting, it was determined that maybe I should be here to answer any questions. I can power talk you through 85 pages of code changes, or just give you a couple highlights. In 2023, the Utah legislature passed Senate Bill 174, and their goal there was to stimulate more housing stock by demanding that we all reduce or streamline our processes for approving single-family, two-family, and townhome subdivisions. So what they didn't really understand was that most of our development for single family is dispersed through all of our zones. So it goes by zoning, not necessarily the categories that they set up. So it did require us to go through 2 entire titles of our code and make updated line item changes to 85 pages of code. But most of the code changes come in Title 11, which is our subdivision ordinance. So you will see those heavy lifting kind of changes more toward the end at pages 49 through 54-ish. Anyway, so what we did, the unintended consequence though, was that it streamlines the process by changing who is the land use authority for those types of development. They wanted us to streamline it so that somebody who's doing a subdivision for those types of development only have to go to 1 hearing, and it's a public meeting, not a public hearing. And then after that 1 public hearing, all the other approvals are done at a staff level. They also wanted us to change or to create a system where we could do certain types of appeals for technical appeals related to those subdivisions to a panel of 3 engineers. So it also required changes to our appeal processes, which are found in Title 10.
So was this outlined in the state code?
Yes.
Basically, the state code said, here's the state code, please amend your code to reflect what we
Yes.
just passed.
And they gave us a deadline of February, which is now. So the interesting thing is, we hear they might tweak it in this legislative session, which would require us to tweak it again, but I haven't really seen anything that made me think we're going to have to rewrite it again this coming year. And we have lots of things.
Don't worry, there's still several days left in the sessions.
They'll find a way to make us do it eventually.
Yeah. Well, luckily in the unincorporated county, we're streamlined already. Most of our single family comes in as a house on an existing lot. It doesn't come in as a subdivision, and we already approve those immediately as a building plan review. So it's not a subdivision review at that point, right? If you have an Ag 20 lot and you want to build a single family home, you just come in with your building plans and you get a building permit. So the other unintended consequence is that when they reduced how many reviews we could have, they also said that at the preliminary plat level, they're going to give us full construction drawings, which is something we never required before. So the unintended consequence is that we were more lenient at the preliminary plat stage, and now we have to be more draconian at the preliminary plat stage because it's your only review, right? If your only review is at the preliminary plat stage, then all your other reviews are at a staff level. That means that we can't process anything until the preliminary plat is complete and the preliminary plat has construction plans. So in a way, it helps single family development or 2-family development or townhomes, and in a way it hurt it. So I don't anticipate that being a problem here. They did give us a model ordinance, which we drafted off of, which we used for our drafting. So the staff will be vilified for requiring complete applications and construction drawings up front. But if we don't require that, then we can't meet the deadlines that they've also imposed on us. They've given us 3-week and 4-week kind of deadlines throughout the code. They've also limited the number of times that we can review the construction plans, which isn't really a problem at our level, but it is a problem in other jurisdictions where they take too long to review things and they have lots and lots and lots of reviews.
So construction drawings would be for the infrastructure to support a subdivision, or?
For the actual buildings.
So what if you're
And the
doing a
infrastructure.
subdivision? You got to build the roads first
Yeah.
before you put the house on it.
Yeah, but you can still bond for it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can still bond for it. So you could go past your preliminary plat stage and get to your final plat stage, and you could bond for that infrastructure. So we did have to update, whenever we do an update like this and we're looking at 85 pages of code, if we find other miscellaneous changes that we need to make For instance, for the Transportation Master Plan, we added some updates about road requirements in here because of the Transportation Master Plan that we just heard from Todd about. In our county, the general plan is not mandatory. So the Transportation Master Plan, which just cost us a bunch of money and that we just spent a lot of time and effort on, isn't mandatory. So we were able to add to the code that if you have a road that fits into our Transportation Master Plan, you have to connect to that Transportation Master Plan road because it made sense, right? If our Transportation Master Plan is in the general plan and it's not mandatory, then we need some teeth in our code to make sure that we're complying with the Transportation Master Plan and also its components for active transportation. Anyway, there's lots of code changes. That is a short review of all of them. If the Planning Commission had a very long public hearing on this where we did have public come and speak in favor of it and also against it. They don't like increasing the length of our code. Unfortunately, our hands are tied because the state requires us to adopt code that complies with the law that they passed last year. So if you guys have any questions about it, that's the content of it. It does have the unintended consequence for us of the county commission used to see every final plat. Now it will only see final plats if they are not single-family, two-family, or townhomes. So if it was commercial or industrial or an apartment complex, you would see the final plat. However, I did put a provision in here that says the county commission still has to sign every final plat because I was concerned on a lot of final plats, there's roadway dedications and easement dedications, and I want the county commission who has to accept that dedication to sign the final plat. So I did add that in to protect us a bit on those dedications. Technical, sorry, a little boring, unless you're me.
Well,
but
in many meetings, Victoria has proven her worth because it's a domino effect. They change one thing and it ripples through all of our building, planning, zoning, and all the language has to be changed because a developer is going to go to something that applies to them and say, oh, well then I don't have to do that. And we have to go back and say, oh yeah, you do. We forgot to move that. So Victoria spent many hours on making sure that it's consistent through every zone, every building project, every type of home. So hats off to you and
it was
appreciate the fact that you'll be with us just another 15 years.
well,
because-
probably not, but I will dedicate my life to you while I'm here.
I like the commitment.
Yeah, thank you so
More
much.
of that. Dedicate my life to you while I'm here. I like that.
I
Victoria.
love
Well
the
done.
drafting part of it. I'll sit in my office all day and draft.
Well, very good. Well, Mr. Chairman, this is a big change, a lot of important changes. At the same time, it's dictated by state code. And, well, with that, unless there's other comments, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 2024-1251-0, an ordinance amending the Washington County Code, various Title 10 zoning regulations and Title 11 subdivision regulations to comply with new state law requiring single-family, single-family, two-family, and townhouse development, and miscellaneous changes to Title 10 and 11 amendments, February 2024.
I'll second that long motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimous. By the way, we've had a few that have come in who have maybe even complained a little bit to commissioners about our process and what's required of them. And downstairs in the planning office, there's an entire board list of probably 30 different checklists that any type of development has to go through. So people can pick that up and simply follow the process, right, Victoria? You can simply look at that checklist and... Yep, very good. All righty, thank you for that. The presentation now, item 10, HCP 2023 Annual Report. Cameron? Nice picture.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So at the last commission meeting, Devin presented a resolution where we kind of made a few changes to how we assess the impact fee and reevaluate that. We have sunset dates, and one of the other things that was in there is a presentation of our annual report. So this is going to be me presenting our annual report, what we've been up to the last year. And it's something that we deliver to the Fish and Wildlife Service by regulation. We just have to submit an annual report. Our advisory committee looks at this. But it's the first time we've added a formal process to include you guys as a part of this, and the public, and then also the municipalities that are partners to our HCP have a chance to know what's going on, what's relevant, what's happening in the future, and what's happened in the past year. I have a copy of it here. It's big, it's lengthy, it has various different like sub-reports and appendices and things like that. The document itself that you guys have electronically is 41 pages. And so it would take me a long time to go through all of that, so I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights. Sarah, if you'll advance to the next slide. Here's our table of contents. There's 8 main sections and then several subsections below that. Under HCP administration, we talk about the staff, we talk about our budget, how much money we have coming in, how much we spent in the past year, what our budget looks like in the next year. Incidental take permit report. This is really relevant for Fish and Wildlife Service. They need to know how many acres have been developed outside of the reserve, and then we have a small allotment for inside of the reserve. We report on those activities. Under tortoise management, if you'll advance to the next slide, it talks about the various different activities that we did to help protect the listed species, the Mojave Desert tortoise. This past year, we moved 25 different tortoises out of harm's way. Most of those went to our new translocation area. This past year, we had a new translocation plan that was approved. And so that had them moving near the Grapevine area, north of Washington. Previously, we were translocating all of our tortoises in the Babylon area. So that was kind of a new update to our plan. And going forward, we hope to continue to add tortoises in that kind of central area of the reserve.
That is a change.
It is.
And so that puts them right into the reserve, the main heart of the reserve from
Correct.
there, right? And so,
Correct.
Now, first they go to quarantine, is that right? And then,
Yeah, we have to do some disease testing on them, make sure that they're healthy enough.
Yeah.
And all of those that pass the disease screening and are healthy to be relocated, then they're relocated. If they're not, it goes to the next thing there, the adoption program. So we had some tortoises that just weren't healthy enough to be relocated. Some of those were probably perfectly healthy, but they were raised in captivity their whole life, and so they're still just captive tortoises. And those also get rehomed through the state's adoption program. And we sent 9 of those tortoises away into the adoption program.
does that include tank or?
No,
No.
we've had those ones for
No.
a number of years. Oh, the one, yes,
Yes.
You're right. That one did get sent to adoption program, but we replaced Tank immediately with another tortoise.
That's a great story.
Also named Tank 2.
Yes,
Good.
correct. We were involved in a couple of cool studies on tortoises this past year. We put game cameras on the culverts at Red Hills Parkway to monitor tortoise movement under the culverts, and we had really cool results in seeing tortoises were using the culverts extensively, both to go under and cross to the other side. Some would just use it as a burrow to shelter, to get away from the heat. Others, we even found nesting. We found some hatchling tortoises in one of the culverts, so that was a pretty cool finding as well. We did a drone study in zones 2 through 5 of the reserve, where we flew a drone over the monitoring transects to help count tortoises and estimate, get an estimate on the number of tortoises in the reserve. And then we did some fire and fuels management on the roads, treating some areas that are more prone to wildfire, that have a lot of invasive grasses. We treated a large area near Green Springs on DWR land to ensure that it doesn't burn up. And all of those are for the benefit of the Mojave Desert tortoise. Next slide. We also have a really important mission on education and outreach. As you guys know, we have this fantastic new building, and so that has served us really well in bringing in more visitors than we've ever had. This past year, even though we weren't open for the full year, we had over 17,000 visitors to our visitor center. Our outreach coordinator gave 202 other presentations. He goes out to the public, to schools and different events. He was able to reach over 5,500 people through his presentations. Next slide. Recreation management. This is also important for us. We performed a variety of community cleanup events in Zone 6 and some other areas near Pioneer Park. We've been promoting citizen science to help the community feel a little more connected to the tortoise, and they submit their tortoise observations to us. We've got a team of 31 trail stewards that perform a variety of services for us. They monitor and patrol those trails, make sure that people are not engaged in illegal activity, that they're staying on the trails. They're not law enforcement, but they're just a friendly reminder to be out there and make sure that they're helping to take care of the reserve. And then another thing that we're working on is the Zone 6 recreation planning. When Zone 6 was established, there's a lot of user-created trails, redundant and unnecessary trails, old OHV trails. And so we've been working with the different user groups like equestrians, the mountain bikers, hikers, rock climbers, and trying to come up with an official recreation plan for Zone 6. And I think we're pretty close to that. We've almost got it figured out. And just as we're close to the finish line, we're finding out that we may not have a Zone 6. So there's a lot of uncertainty on how that's going to unfold. If you go to my next slide, this leads me to the Northern Corridor change circumstance. The reason we may not have a Zone 6 is, as you guys know, the BLM and Fish and Wildlife Service have announced that they're going to revisit those federal decisions that they made in 2021 in regards to the road. And Zone 6 was established as the primary mitigation for the road, at least for our part of the mitigation. And so if that changed circumstance is no longer triggered, the Zone 6 goes away as a part of the reserve. Some of the other things, and I'll just mention these because this is what our advisory committee commented most on the annual report, was the Zone 6 change circumstance. Some of the other commitments that are related to this are we offered to create tortoise passages on Cottonwood Road to reduce the fragmentation in that big part of the reserve. We're actually really close to completing that one as well, but it's on hold, just kind of waiting for the decisions. We are required to acquire land in Zone 6 at a 3-to-1 ratio. We've acquired 450 acres already for the estimated 150 acres that would be lost to the road. We've already installed fencing on Navajo Drive. We've already been involved in a lot of recreation management. We've hired increased law enforcement officers, as you guys know. Grazing retirement, the habitat management, the fire prevention that we're working on. And overall, if this change circumstance is triggered, it allows us to have $15 million more to spend in Zone 6 and related conservation. It includes our outreach position, our field technician position. And so all of those things there that we're doing and wanted to be doing in the future to benefit the tortoise and the recreation are at risk and could be lost depending on the final decisions that the federal government makes in the upcoming months. So in closing, I wanted to just share a short video, a shout out to Greater Zion that helped create this video. It kind of highlights what's going on with Zone 6 and how important it is to our community. And then I also just want to make sure I thank my team, my HCP team. They've been great in helping to compile this report, and they've been awesome in all of their efforts all year. So I just want to do a shout out to the whole HCP team. So, and then after the video, if you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Absolutely.
To keep traffic moving in one of the fastest growing areas in the nation. This road is essential to reduce pressure from St. George Boulevard and Bluff Street and will result in reduced traffic on up to 70 other intersections, safer travel, and cleaner air for our community. Because the road would cross an edge of Red Cliffs Desert Reserve, county and state officials agreed to expand the reserve by over 6,800 acres to include a new area called Zone 6. Since then, Zone 6 has protected the threatened desert tortoise and the endangered dwarf bear poppy, while also improving and maintaining beloved recreational hotspots like Bear Claw Poppy Trail, Zen and Stookie Springs biking and hiking trails, Moe's Valley bouldering, Green Valley Gap climbing, and dozens of other multi-use trails that are enjoyed by locals and visitors alike. With construction of the Northern Corridor on the horizon, a recent lawsuit from an environmental group now threatens to reverse these plans. Because this was a cause and effect agreement, no roadway means no protection for Zone 6. No protection for its vulnerable tortoises and dwarf bear poppies. About 500 endangered tortoises would be at risk. And no recreation. Without the Northern Corridor, access to beloved recreation areas may be lost or restricted because half of the land in Zone 6 will again be available for private development. Your public lands may no longer be public, and a once thriving hub for outdoor recreation could be carved into another privately owned, commercially developed area. Within the original boundaries of the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve, 40 to 50 tortoises will require short distance relocation for road construction. But if the road does not occur, hundreds of tortoises and thousands of endangered poppies will permanently lose their homes. So, is stopping the Northern Corridor truly for the benefit of the tortoises? Limiting urban sprawl and reducing traffic is better for all of us, and losing Zone 6 would cause more harm than good. Speak up for the tortoises, recreation, and public lands. Learn the facts and make your voice heard by submitting a comment.
That's a great video. I have some people I'd like to send it to. Donis Ferris Raleigh at the BLM, a few of the people over at Service Southwest. I'll make a list.
Good job, Cameron. Excellent work and message. Thank you, Greater Zion, for putting that together. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Cameron, could you step to the mic and just one more time, just really clearly, does the Zone 6 change for the 6,800 to 154 acre benefit, as a biologist, does it benefit, is there a net benefit to the tortoise?
Yeah, as you can see from the video, you've got about 40 to 50 tortoises that are going to be moved to short distance in Zone 6. If that were authorized for development, my team would have to potentially move up to 300 to 400 tortoises. So it's a big difference in the amount of tortoises I'm going to have to move and relocate out of harm's way.
I have little kids, Cameron. I think even they can understand that math pretty easily. This is a net benefit. If you actually care about the tortoise, this is a net benefit to the tortoise. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. We get to work very closely with Cameron. I can just say that anybody who lives here, the economy that we have is directly responsible. If you've moved here in the last 30 years, the HCP is the reason why you were able to move here. And the manager, Cameron, does a phenomenal job and is an asset and an unsung hero in the county. So thank you for what you do and your whole team.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to take just a minute and brag about Cameron just because
he loves it.
Everybody knows, he loves it. He loves the spotlight. Well, and I always make fun of biologists, because I sometimes think that they don't know what they're talking about. But I'll tell you what, Cameron knows what he's talking about. He knows this species. He's one of the best biologists I've ever seen. And he leads a phenomenal team down there, does great public outreach. I think he's really taught me that, we can totally comply with environmental regulations, preserve a critical habitat, and take care of a species at the same time as meeting the needs that we have as a community. And so he's done tremendous work and great leadership. And I guess that's a little bit why I get so frustrated with this political process that's being driven from Washington, D.C. Right now, because, and we could go into long history, but I won't. But the fact of it is that you are taking care of the habitat and the tortoise in a way that nobody else has. I mean, some of the people might not appreciate using technology, using the drone to do the surveys. This means that instead of people walking out through the habitat to try to count tortoises, we're now using drones that have been much more accurate and much quicker. The cameras to help us understand and appreciate how the tortoise reacts to, to culverts and other things. Because even as we've talked about this Northern Corridor, we've always known that if and when we build the corridor, it'll have to be built with tremendous respect for the habitat and for the area that it goes through. And so we've always wondered about this, kind of like bisecting the habitat and how we would overcome that. And just in the last year or so, with your leadership, Cameron, kind of bringing new data to the table and saying, look, we can do this with culverts. And in fact, it helps the habitat. So anyway, I could go on for quite a while, but Cameron does a great job. And I think the education center downstairs has been a hit. And
It's been great.
we
Yeah.
were always a little nervous about it. Some people might ask, why is the county so involved? And the fact of it is we don't necessarily have to be. We chose to be. We chose to take this on as a partnership years ago. And I think it's proven to be a real benefit for the citizens of the county as we develop both quality recreation that interacts with habitat. But also, if you weren't here, it would be solely up to the BLM and Fish and Wildlife Service to administer that area, right? And so I think you do a great job, and it's been very beneficial to the county overall.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And if I can just add just one little bit, because it helps address Commissioner Snow's question about the road and the effects. When they made the first assessment 3 to 4 years ago, looking at, the fragmentation effects of the original road, there wasn't a lot of research about tortoises using the culverts. We knew that they might, but they analyzed it in such a way that there would be very limited movement. Now that we have the new data that we have at Red Hills Parkway, it's a great example of what the Northern Corridor would look like. It's in a very similar location. We've collected over 430 observations in the last 2 years of tortoises at those culverts. Most of these tortoises are passing through fully, and so we have a plethora of data now that shows that the original impacts that everybody analyzed years ago were probably overestimated. We really thought it would be a lot worse than it would, and we now know that the situation would probably fare a lot better for tortoises on Northern Corridor if it were built. So that's just another way of showing that the new science is leading us to a direction that we could probably make both work. Yeah, if the opposite happens and we have development in Zone 6, there's no way to make that work. It's
Right.
full development, and we've got to move all of those tortoises out of harm's way.
I'm just going to say again, and you know this already, Cameron, and my fellow commissioners know this, but the public may not. When we say Zone 6 development, about half of Zone 6 is owned by the Utah State
Correct.
School Trust Lands, or SITLA, as we call that. And they have a mandate to make money for the school kids and to provide for schools. And that will become very valuable land. It already is. But if you think of desert color, but against BLM land with great views out over Mose Valley and everywhere else, they will develop it. And so there is a narrative going around by some very dishonest people in this community that it won't be developed. It will absolutely be developed. They have to. Not only could it be, they have to. If it's going to make money for the schools, eventually that land will be worth something for them to make, to provide for education in this state. And so it will be developed, and all of that land, all of that recreation will be under the foundation of a home and a road somewhere. And it'll be a tragedy for the recreation, it'll be a tragedy for the tortoise, and it will be 100% politically motivated by idiots.
A little more math. How many acres are in the proposed Northern Corridor?
So the road itself would impact about 150 acres in the
150.
reserve. 150. Yep.
And how many acres are in Zone 6?
Over 6,800 in total, of which half are the privately owned that Commissioner Snow was mentioning on SITLA.
So for anybody listening, that's easy elementary school math as well. When a tiny portion goes into a roadway, which the tortoise can pass under,
Yeah.
which we've proven in trade for well over 6,000 acres of tortoise, which have a significant population. Hats off to Cameron for one when he said years ago, well, let's give the naysayers of the Northern Corridor a gift. I happen to know there are tortoise in Zone 6. And you came forward and said, what about this kind of trade? Well, certainly they couldn't turn down 168 for 6,000 plus, and they did. So having said that, thanks to you for that vision, and hopefully the climbers and bikers and trail, who am I missing? The bikers and hikers and those who climb rocks are all on board because they stand to lose that opportunity as well, and at least half of it.
I think one other thing that Cameron proved in Zone 6 is it was highly recreated prior to it being considered as Zone 6. In fact, that was a motivating factor, but just there hadn't been a whole lot of data on human interaction and recreation's impact on the tortoise. And what we found when we went out and surveyed is that we had some of the highest populations in the county in some of the highest recreated areas. And so it was kind of this idea. I once had a county commissioner from Iron County, because some people might be aware that they have the prairie dog up there that carries the bubonic plague and everything and digs holes everywhere. And he made a comment, and ever since then I've appreciated the tortoise. He's like, you guys have the tortoise in Washington County. I mean, who couldn't like a tortoise? I mean, it's kind of a nice little animal. We have this rodent up here that just goes all over and causes all kinds of problems. And it helped me appreciate our desert tortoise.
They're more charismatic than prairie dogs for sure.
Exactly.
Thank you. Well, our
Thank
next
you.
item is actually addressing the very plan you talked about. So item 11, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3259, a resolution approving and adopting the HCP 2023 annual report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2024-3259, a resolution approving and adopting the HCP 2023 annual report. And that's my
I second
motion.
the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Item 12. Thank you, Cameron. Consideration of resolution number R 2024-3260, a resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement between Washington County and the PPA for the Red Rock Open. Chad.
Yeah, thank you. This is a resolution that the Tourism Tax Advisory Board recently voted to approve this funding for a marketing agreement with the Pro Pickleball Association for a tournament that'll be held in April. And the recommendation is for up to $100,000. This event, as you guys know, that pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in America. And with the recent expansion of the Little Valley pickleball courts with the help of Washington County from those transient room tax dollars, we'll bring in, last year they had about 1,000 professional players. They're anticipating about 1,500 this year for a 4-day tournament that will be in April. So we're looking forward to that. This marketing agreement will help us with exposure on the Tennis Channel, ESPN, YouTube, and some other things with that, plus with about another additional 2,600 spectators that will come along with that for the week.
Chad, just one question for you. Is pickleball faster than cornhole?
It's different. It's unique.
Just as far as the growth of the sport. As attraction to the area,
I think pickleball is still a pretty fast-growing sport, and cornhole is catching up.
Good.
Well, I think pickleball is fantastic, and obviously our citizens really have fallen in love with it. I think it's a great draw to the community as far as good use of marketing dollars. The one thing that does make me smile a little bit is the professional part. I always thought that I'm just, I mean, how do I get into being a professional pickleball player?
Well, there's some of those I watched last year, and they tend to, about every week from one of their tournaments, make the ESPN top 10. There is a handful of these, about 100 of them are traveling professionals, and that's what they do. They're the John McEnroes of pickleball. It's kind of an interesting thing to watch, and they're very skillful. I just know that if I see somebody come on a court with a knee brace and probably twice my age, I'm going to get whooped. So it's a fun sport, though.
Yeah.
Well, when you get Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf, who combined have probably just as many trophies of anybody in tennis, and they themselves are promoting pickleball, you know that it's coming. And when the Tennis Channel provides coverage of the pickleball finals, you know that their tennis players are giving in to this up and rising sport. So.
It's got quite the exposure, and so we're thrilled to team up with them to be able to expose this area as one of the best places in the country to play.
The best.
And thanks to our partners, St. George and the other pickleball associations locally, to bring in these professionals. And let it happen, and a great advantage to TRT. So, having said that, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3260, a resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement between Washington County and the PPA for the Red Rock Open.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Votes unanimous. Thank you, Chad. Item 13, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3261, authorizing the Washington County Public Works Department to adopt and implement changes to its fee schedule.
I'm pleased to come before you for a fee reduction, actually. What we've had in the past is $1 per foot on our encroachment permits. So if somebody wanted to come in and put a pipeline or a telephone line or something in our right-of-ways, we'd charge them $1 per foot for inspections. And we found that that works out fairly well. It covers our costs. That's all we were trying to do for our inspector. But on large projects where they come in with like miles, 50,000 miles would cost them $50,000. And we felt that was excessive for the time that we would spend. So we've looked at a graduated fee where for the first 1,000 feet, we would charge that $1 per foot. But then for the next, from 1,001 to 5,000 feet, we'd charge 50 cents per foot. And then after that, 25 cents per foot, so that on these very large projects, we can keep the fees down to something more reasonable. We also used to charge $300 for every crossing of a road because that does tend to damage our asphalt. In an effort to trying to encourage boring under the roads rather than open cutting, we're requesting that we just only have $25 whenever they bore under the road instead of open cut it. And so that's what we're proposing for our new fee schedule. We hope that you would approve.
Well,
You have any
good.
questions?
I'd like the record to show best taxed county, and now we're cutting fees as well.
Do
Yeah.
we have like some confetti that goes off?
Yeah, we should give ourselves a trophy.
Well done, Todd.
Okay, thank you.
Give Todd a trophy. No, appreciate it, Todd. You do great work. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2024-3261, a resolution authorizing the Washington County Public Works Department to adopt and implement changes to its fee schedule, which has been pointed out will actually reduce those fees in some cases.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Thank you, Todd. Item 14, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3262, accepting funding from the state of Utah for certain trail and sewer improvements in Zion National Park. Mr. Zion himself.
Yes,
Zion Czar.
Zion
Zion
Czar.
Czar.
Got to get that on my business cards. Well,
Please do.
yeah, as you all are aware, Zion National Park has seen a pretty big increase in visitors over the past few years, which is great, but it is causing some challenges up in Zion Canyon, specifically for the outdated septic systems between Zion Lodge and the Temple of Sinawava. So the increased visitation, the old septic systems that have been in there for decades, they've not been able to handle all the increased use, and they have failed. And so the park has had to resort to using 14 porta potties up the canyon, which is not a great experience. When visitors come to Zion, they're expecting a world-class experience. When they have to use a nasty porta potty, doesn't really meet their expectations.
Of course, they are in the wilderness almost, in a roundabout way.
Oh, that's the problem. A lot of people are skipping the porta potties and using the wilderness.
Oh, they're going into the
Uh,
wilderness.
yeah.
I can see the
So,
I don't
yeah.
like the porta potty, the steep canyon walls. It's just all very fitting.
Yeah. So the park has determined that the solution is to scrap the old septic systems and to extend the sewer line from the Zion Lodge all the way up to the Temple of Sinawava. The problem is Commissioner Almquist just alluded to, getting up the canyon with a sewer line, it can be challenging. You've got on one side a complete drop off to the river, on the other side just a straight rock wall going up. So it's a difficult and expensive project. The Park Service has budgeted $19 million for this project. The problem is it's not going to come until their 2027 budget, and they've got problems right now. In addition to the sewage problems, with the increased traffic up Zion Canyon, especially with the advent of e-bikes, we've had a lot more pedestrians and bikers just wandering up the canyon rather than use the shuttle system. And with that road being so narrow, there's not a lot of shoulder space. It's created some real safety concerns. If you've got a shuttle coming up and a group of e-bikers, there's a high potential for accidents to happen. And so the other thing that Zion National Park would like to do is to extend the Parus Trail from Canyon Junction also all the way up to the Temple of Sinawaba, to get those pedestrians off of the road onto their own pathway and really improve the visitor experience. And again, not a cheap project. And so the state of Utah, at the urging of Washington County, they were generous enough last legislative session to appropriate $18 million to help the park get moving on the sewer and trail projects. And so this resolution would be to enter into a contract with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Washington County would accept that $18 million from the state, and we could work with the park to disperse those funds to get the sewer and trail projects underway.
Well said.
Very good, Heath.
Mr. Chairman,
You deserve your title.
Yeah. I think it's important to know, as we all know, and Heath knows, but for the public and certainly those of the National Park Service, the federal government, that this is just one more instance of the county, and in this case, the state, putting its money where its mouth is, that we're trying to help the Park Service address some of the visitation concerns that they have, this case being sewer and cycling, multimodal trail, but that we don't just sit back and say, oh man, we just need to, contrary to the argument of some, that we just want to rape and pillage the land and, just get as much as we can for it, cram as many visitors in that canyon, short-term win, long-term loss. This is us trying to address and help where we can on land that the citizens of Washington County don't necessarily own. This is federally managed land, but the state of Utah stepping in to do what it can, where the federal government is just so interminably slow sometimes, how we can help out. We're grateful for the legislature and the governor in bringing this money to help Washington County. It's a huge portion of our economy, and that's why we're trying to help.
Legislators thought the same way.
And I'll second that motion.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that was my motion to accept the resolution R 2024-3262, as I said.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Our final item is item 15, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3263, providing for appointed board members of the Southwestern Special Service District. Devin.
Thanks, Commissioners. This item has to do with Southwestern Special Service District. This is an elected board, and the year 2023 ended without this district holding or calling an election for those board positions that were expiring. And so that's okay under state law. Those members whose terms have expired can continue to serve until a reappointment is made. So that's no problem there, but those positions do need to be filled. And rather than having an expensive special election, this resolution would make those positions appointed. And so the Commission Office is going to notice those positions, and then that would come back before you to make actual appointments to fill those board positions.
Great.
Appointed indefinitely, Devin, or just?
This resolution specifies that it's these three positions.
Exactly.
specifically.
I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify that.
So the other two would still be elected.
Correct. Doesn't affect the other two members, correct.
Anyway, once again, I appreciate anybody who's willing to serve in special service districts. They do a great service. And also, though, sometimes it's difficult to have an election just for a special board like this, so it makes it a little bit easier. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2024-3263, a resolution providing for appointed board members in the Southwest Special Service District.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Passes. That concludes our regular agenda. These meetings are rebroadcast daily on TDS channels, cable channels 22 and 108 at 10 a.m. 2 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. They're available on demand at youtube.com Community Education Channel. Thank you for your attendance and the items we heard. Concluded. Adjourned.